I'm Stephen Lewis, and I'm on the Prosperity Show talking about copywriting and how to make your phone ring with persuasive writing and understanding the fundamentals of marketing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, where we dive deep into the secrets of success and also sprinkle a little bit of laughter along the way. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today I want you guys to hold on to your hats because we've got a guest who's about to drop some serious wisdom bombs. And that's right, get ready to meet Stephen J. Lewis, the mastermind behind Taleist, a copywriting and marketing agency based in sunny Sydney. Now, Stephen, how are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing very well. It's great to meet you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, obviously, you would have been practicing your salesmanship in print, but you decided to spend some time with us here today. Now, Steve, could you maybe tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do at Taleist?
Taleist is a marketing agency, but we specialize in copywriting. And copywriting is the art, the craft, the science of using words to persuade people to do something they probably already want to do, but that they're not otherwise going to do. So it's different from content writing, which I think a lot of people don't understand to start with. So just to clarify, a content writer would entertain you, inform you, educate you. So you can think of journalism, for instance, as content writing, and I was a journalist. The copywriter has that extra job, which is persuading you to act, which is a much higher level. So again, if I think about myself back when I was a journalist, if I wrote a travel article about going to Bali, my job was to entertain you and to inform you about Bali, but whether or not you decided to go to Bali was irrelevant. As a copywriter, it's my job to persuade you that you should go to Bali. So that's what Taleist does. We take our clients, understand their business, and position those businesses persuasively to the right people and the opposite of persuasively to the wrong people.
Absolutely. I quite like that because so many people, you're absolutely right, think content is only just in the premise of getting people to sort of be entertained or educated around what it is that you're doing. Whereas copywriting is the actual persuasion, the last mile that people actually need to purchase that, goods or service or take that trip to Bali. So you said you started off as a journalist. What made that transition from just entertaining people to literally persuading them to take that flight?
I was a journalist in Hong Kong, and which is where I grew up, and I lived until I was 30. So the thing about Hong Kong is that there aren't that many native English speaking professional writers. So if you were a native English speaking professional writer and your name appeared in the newspaper, you get approached by companies who wanted a copywriter. So as I was a freelance journalist, I was really happy to take side gigs as what I thought then was a copywriter. And that was, I thought it was my job to write a brochure that sounded nice. And it took me, I loved writing, I like writing. And so I began to study copywriting. And when you study it, that's when you come to understand that I'm not a copywriter because I can write sentences that are prettier than somebody else's sentences. I'm a copywriter because I can persuade somebody to do something. It's got nothing to do with whether your English teacher would have been impressed with you at school. And so that transition from journalism to writing for companies and then trying to learn how to do that better just became a decades-long pursuit for me, something I would study every day, even now.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, from what I've gathered, you've been in the game for nearly 3 decades. And obviously, there's so
That is
much
true.
that has been changing in this whole space, from the time that websites actually started to exist, you've been there, at day dot. Now, what actually keeps you inspired and motivated to keep creating? Because some people would have given up by now with all these changes that have come in, and algorithms that may or may not be taking the strength of your work away every single day.
Well, one of the things that is particularly smart, because I think that there's a two-track system going on. So my first business actually wasn't writing, it was building websites in 1994 when nobody knew what a website was. So I would go into meetings with people who would literally say, so what is the World Wide Web, as we called it then? And they would finish that meeting by saying, I've heard of something called email. Tell me, what is email? So a long time ago, so pre-algorithms, pre-Google. Google didn't start till 1998. So I was building websites 4 years before Google existed. So there was no SEO. So yes, I have been there since the very beginning. And yes, all of those things have changed. And it is in the interests of lots of so-called digital marketers to convince you that the world is changing at this incredibly rapid pace and algorithms and blah, 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 blah. But what isn't changing is the people who are consuming that content. What persuades you to buy something is the same mechanisms that persuaded your dad to buy something and your grandfather to buy something and way back beyond that. So while you might be getting your messages now, Prosper, in TikTok, if you're that way inclined, and I might be getting mine on LinkedIn or by email, the psychological triggers that convince you to do something are identical. So there's a lot of crap talked about the amount of change, and very little is talked about the amount that has stayed the same, because it's not in the interests of the people talking rubbish to point out that actually lots of it is still the same. Kids still want to be cool. Middle-aged people still want to live forever. Single people still want to find love. Everybody feels inadequate and wants to feel like they actually can do what they're doing. Those things are immortal. So if you know how to talk to those things, it doesn't matter whether you're talking in TikTok or by email or in a letter. So a lot of things haven't changed. And so what inspires me to keep going is that copywriting, a lot of people would think that copywriting it's about bullshit, right? It's about, how can I make up something that sounds fantastic so that Prosper will buy something he didn't really want? And that's not what copywriting is at all. Copywriting is about positioning your client accurately and persuasively so that the right person sees that client and goes, fantastic, that's exactly what I need. So great businesses meet great customers and come together. And I love doing that. And my clients tend to be smaller businesses who are trying to emulate the levels of nonsense that big businesses get into. And they tangle themselves up in knots. And actually, it's incredibly rewarding to take a small business and help it to explain itself in a way that makes sense. Because in my experience, many, many small businesses are great at what they do, but do not know how to explain themselves in a way that has the right client saying, oh, that's what you do. That's what I need. And that's what I love doing every day.
I quite like that because, yeah, you're right. Bigger businesses, they have, I think, that thing about them that they're too big to fail. And because of the branding and the content that they're putting out there, something that they're just spraying on the market will somehow one day stick. You know what I mean? Like, we can take a very concrete example, which is like Nike. Nike is just spreading its name and badge and everything on everyone, so it's easy to recognize, and then it's easy to then replicate that message. As a small business, you don't have that market pool. You don't have that brand sort of recognition, influence, and things of that nature, or even the capital to do it at a bigger scale. So if you then get somebody who can do it in the shortest words possible and really convince people to actually buy from you, that will make a huge difference. Now, you've been resisting a lot of bandwagons, and I like the way you're like, if you get your information from TikTok, that sort of shows how different people are consuming their content and things like that. Could you share more about why that has been important in your journey to just be true to understanding the fundamental human needs? Because so many people don't understand that. They think they have to be everywhere and everywhere in order for their customers to buy from them.
Sometimes like you'll be familiar with Simon Sinek, right? Because everybody's familiar with Simon Sinek, who
That was
is a
why,
man
yeah.
who speaks an incredible amount of shit. And people love what he says, even though it is absolute provable nonsense. And they love it, right? And he has this thing, as we all know, what is your why? And if you know your why, people will buy from you, which is completely opposite of human nature. People do not buy from you because of your why. They buy from you because of their why. They don't buy organic food because you believe in saving the planet. They buy organic food because they believe in saving the planet, or they believe in, that sort of thing. But borrowing, his language of what is your why and what is your motivation, somewhere along the line, my motivation became my why, ridding the world of bullshit one sentence at a time. And I don't like seeing, because I'm a small business owner myself, I don't like seeing other small business owners bullied by people shouting bullshit at them. So, we all suffer imposter syndrome. You're running a small business. You are a great lawyer. You are a great social media expert. You are a great, whatever you are, you're a great consultant of some kind, but you're not a marketing expert. So somebody comes in and tells you you're doing it all wrong because you're not doing it on TikTok, or you're not making 7-second videos, or you're not doing whatever will please you. You're not dancing for a meme. And people go, oh, okay, well, I better do that. And that frustrates the hell out of me, because good marketing is clarity, because confused minds don't buy. So somebody who shouts at you about a tactic, so TikTok is a tactic, email is a tactic, LinkedIn is a tactic. Somebody who shouts at you about shiny tactics without asking what are the fundamentals of your business and are you explaining your business clearly is just picking your pocket. And that irritates me no end, because I've seen a lot of businesses who spend a lot of money on marketing and positioning and branding. And if you say to them, what do you do? The best they can say to you is, I'm an accountant, or I run training for, I don't know, CPR or whatever it is. And you're like, that's as far as you've got with your differentiation, your positioning, your compelling statements. And I like getting those things right for people, because once they have those things right, everything falls into place.
I like that because you're absolutely right. Anybody else is on the market is only just peddling that latest shiny object, and usually it would leave people just spinning their wheels. From what you're saying, I'm gathering that as long as a business owner understands who their market is, understands what their message is, the media can vary. The media, like you're talking about the TikTok, the email marketing, the whole LinkedIn and things of that nature. So what other digital marketers are putting out there is just the media, and they are not actually looking at the customers. Who exactly is that person who has a problem that needs to be solved? And what are you going to say when you have arrived at that person's doorstep,
That's right.
in order for them to see if their why will get them to want to do business with you? If I
That's
stand
right.
corrected on that sort of premise.
No, I mean that's Dan Kennedy, who's a famous marketer. He describes it as a triangle. You've got the media, the message, and the market, and none of those things is more important than any of the others. But as you say, there's lots of people who can't do the market. They can't help you to understand your customers, and they can't help you to craft your message, but they can get themselves a Facebook ads account or a TikTok ads account and set themselves up as a TikTok person, and then tell you that everything you've ever heard about life is wrong because you're not doing it on TikTok. So yes, they can get you on TikTok, but on TikTok saying the wrong things to the wrong people. So you're missing the other two sides of the triangle. And to my mind, media is the easiest part of the triangle, because once you know who you're talking to and what they need to hear, not what you need to say, what they need to hear. You always have to start with what they need to hear. Then it falls into place. Because so quite often, for instance, when I talk to my clients, you'll say, who's your ideal client? And it's not uncommon for somebody to say, oh, anyone age 18 to 65. And you're like, yeah, I get it. They've got money, right? But if you're selling basketballs, you probably want somebody who likes playing basketball, right? Like, that's your target market. Yes, any of us between 18 and 65 can buy a basketball, but we're not your market. So once you've understood, this is my market, hang on a minute, let's be honest. So if I take myself, for example, I know my market is largely people over 45. They're over 45, they own their own business, they are in a good position, they're very good at what they do, they're not great at marketing, they're not looking to take their business to $100 million business. They're not in the Gary Vaynerchuk universe. They're not like, yes, I want to start on my kitchen table and I want to be making 100 million in 5 years' time. It's not who they are. They want a reliable source of income. They want to know that the next client is about to ring the phone. That's what they want to know. So when I have that clear picture in my mind, I can then start thinking, well, why do these people think their phone isn't ringing? What do they write about why their phone isn't ringing? What actually is a mistaken belief about that? What is a limiting belief that I could help them to get through? So that then helps me to realize what I need to be saying to these people, and also where I need to be saying it, because my audience is not on TikTok, right? My audience is looking at LinkedIn, they're reading their emails, and I could put something in the post that would reach them. So, the media follows from understanding the market and the message, and too few people will spend the time on the market and the message.
I like that. And when you start focusing on, the right channels, you find the right people, and you're no longer, conducting random acts of marketing, which will just leave you depleted, without having spoken to anyone and yelling at everybody along the line. But you also don't just conduct this for your clients. You also teach people, especially those that would want to engage in this sort of communication with their clients. You've got, I think it's called the newsletter magic, and I think that sounds really intriguing, and it's a spellbinding course that you got offering there. Could you maybe walk us through how this helps businesses revamp their email game, and preferably how people can get started on this?
What you've got with an email newsletter is the potential to be right inside somebody's inbox, building a relationship on a daily or a weekly basis. You don't have that with social media. So social media continues to be, Facebook's 20 years old now, but it continues to be the shiny new thing. But you post something on Facebook or LinkedIn, it is not shown to everybody who follows you, right? So you don't know. So you can I've got 6,000 people follow me on LinkedIn. I put something on LinkedIn, I'll get somewhere between 200 and 1,000 impressions. But I've got 6,000 followers. They're not all seeing everything I put up. But when I send an email to my email newsletter list, 50% of them open it. So all of them get it, and 50% of them open it. And I know that's going to happen, and you can never take that away from me. So with my Facebook presence, that can be taken away from me at any minute. And actually, to digress for a minute, Taleist Facebook page has been down now for 6 weeks because Facebook got hacked. Somebody got into our ads account and spent $2.50. We reported to Facebook that Facebook had been hacked. They shut it down. They refunded the money, but they've kept our Facebook page closed for 6 weeks. So if my business relied on reaching people through Facebook, I've been in the dark for 6 weeks now. So that can all be taken away from you. Whereas the email, you have the ability to own the list. Nobody can take the list away. You know the names of the people who are on it, and you know how to get in touch with them, and that belongs to you. Nobody can take it away from you. And it gives you this incredible real estate to promote yourself, to provide value that also promotes yourself from lots of different angles. So I would liken it to having this massive surface area. So if I send you a Facebook ad, or send a Facebook ad out that you see, you click on it, I've got to kind of go, shit, Prosper's on I've got to tell him everything. I've got to tell him everything now. I've got to build the value. I've got to get him excited. I've got to give him 500 testimonials for this thing. Because if I lose him now, I lose him forever. With an email newsletter, I'm emailing you every day. I can tell you a little bit about my new course. Tomorrow, I can tell you a little bit from a different angle. The next day, I can give you a little bit of a case study. All the time, I'm giving you value, and I'm deepening my relationship with you so that you come to know me, to like me, to trust me. And actually, Newsletter Magic is itself a good example of newsletter magic, because it's authentic to them. They're not the slave to some kind of algorithm. They're not writing content that might not even be seen by anybody. Last year, I decided I wanted to launch this course, but I wanted to make sure that people wanted to buy it before I went to the trouble of building it. So I made an offer to my list. I said, this is the course. It's going to include this sort of stuff. Do you want it? Click here to buy it. And people clicked, and people bought it, and then I built it. So if they hadn't wanted it, I would have sent out 3 or 4 emails. Nobody would have bought it. No harm, no foul. I move on to the next thing that I can offer to people. That is the power of an email newsletter, that I had never run this course before. I had never built it. I had not built it. I had no testimonials for it because it didn't exist. But because I have a relationship with my newsletter audience, they trust me. So when I said in December, I'm running this course, it won't run until the beginning of February, but I want your money today to lock in your place. Now, yes, I offered some bonuses, and I offered an advantageous price because it was the first time it was going out. People gave me their money in December for a course that wasn't running until February. And yes, I could have vaporized into the night carrying their money, but they feel they have a relationship with me. And to give you another example of that, I recently mentioned in passing in my email newsletter that I gave up drinking at the beginning of January, and it was relevant to something I was talking about with business. But it's a personality-driven email. It's about me, but it's also about my readers and building a relationship. I had so many replies from subscribers telling me their own stories, their own, decisions to give up drinking years ago, how they feel about it, recommending books I should read, because it's a genuine relationship. You're in somebody's inbox, having a genuine relationship, and what that does to drive sales, referrals, people remembering who you are, because you can provide service to somebody, 1 year, don't provide, and they've forgotten who you are, right? But you're in their inbox all the time. So, that was a very long answer, but right now I've got a group of people going through it. They're learning how to write a personality-driven newsletter. They're getting feedback on their drafts, and it's a whole skill, and it's a skill that I can tell. What's lovely about it is I can tell how excited they are to be learning it, because they can see immediately that they get to do marketing in which they get to be themselves and authentic and help people and build their businesses.
Quite like that. And it's what you just told about losing your Facebook is something that is happening and doing the rounds in the marketing space. I actually got that same sort of attack, but 3 years ago. And ever since then, I've since lost access to my company Facebook and my actual personal Facebook. And ever since then, I've never really bothered with any of the Meta products. So for the last 3 years, even as a digital agency, I haven't bothered with stepping into their zone, because like what you're saying, 6 weeks, we lost a lot of revenue, and that in and of itself just told me they're not a good partner, which then got me to double down on the show now, which basically helps me connect with people like yourself, and also helps me create something that I can deliver in the inbox for my audience. So thank you so much for bringing that about, because so many people get really caught up in this bandwagon of holding on to a platform which has got which brings nothing but stress and a bill. All right. So you didn't then tell us how people can jump onto this newsletter magic, or can they just go on your website and
Well,
join a
Newsletter
waiting?
Magic, the doors open for Newsletter Magic roughly every 2 months. So what people need to be is on my newsletter in another meta way. So if they go to Taleist.agency, there is an offer there for people to get onto the mailing list. So that's Taleist, Taleist.agency. And that will take you onto the mailing list. And actually, there is something that your audience might be interested in, because as a copywriter, one of the best things for us is for our clients to have great testimonials, because there isn't better proof than great testimonials, but it's very hard to get testimonials. So we have a guide to getting testimonials from your clients using ChatGPT to help you. The guide is called Effortless Testimonials. And if your audience is interested, there's an easy URL for them, which again is Taleist.agency/OPS. And so your audience can get a free copy of that guide there. So what that'll do is it will get you, so you'll see copywriting in action, because the prompts are copywriting prompts written by a copywriter for ChatGPT to write a personalized email to your client asking for a killer testimonial. So it's easier for the client to reply, they're going to reply because you've made it easy for them, and it's easy for you to send out because it's a low pressure email that is the output. So if you sign up for that, you will of course get onto the Taleist newsletter, and then you'll hear when Newsletter Magic opens again. And it's a small group program, so there are limited places every time, because I give people a lot of individual feedback. So I need time to do that. So right now I'm spending at least an hour a day giving feedback to everybody in the group on the emails that they're writing.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for opening that channel for people to join. I will make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can actually get started on their journey. First of all, to learn what copywriting is and isn't, and also how to be a better copywriter themselves. Now, speaking of that, for someone who's probably just starting in the world of copywriting, you've presented so many mindset shifts. First of all, you have obviously, separated it from content writing, which is what a lot of people are getting into this industry thinking, I'm just going to create content, write a blog, maybe short form, long form, and things of that nature. What is one piece of advice that you wish you'd received when you were starting out on this journey?
Read the greats, because once you've read, I mean, there's a post on the Taleist website called, I think it's 12 books every copywriter should read. So if you Google Taleist and 12 books every copywriter should read, you'll find that blog post. But my thesis is clear that when you've read the greats, David Ogilvy, Gary Halbert, Eugene Schwartz, Joe Sugarman, you will recognize that so many of the guys writing today about digital marketing, which I'm putting very much in quotation marks because marketing is marketing and digital is just a channel and a set of tactics, you will see that they're all just appropriating from books that have been around for ages. Like I read a book on advertising on YouTube. It was a good book about advertising on YouTube, but it was actually a copywriting book, because it wasn't really about the mechanics of advertising on YouTube. It was about the mechanics of creating a good YouTube ad. And of course, that is copywriting, persuasion. And what he was writing in that book, without attributing any of it, you could read that and think, that's Eugene Schwartz, that's Gary Halbert, that's pure Joe Sugarman. And the advantage of reading the books in their original authors, from their original authors, is it just reminds you that nothing has changed. If you read David Ogilvy writing in the 1980s, everything he says, apart from some of the more sexist language that was okay in the 1980s, everything he says is applicable today. And he was writing a decade before the internet and 2 decades before Facebook, and it is just as relevant today as it was then. So it is that if you're getting started as a copywriter, it is brilliant to remind yourself that the shiny things are completely irrelevant. The things you need to master are things that were true decades ago and will be true in decades. They'll be true until the end of your career and beyond.
Fantastic. You literally bring a new definition to the phrase, the truth shall set you free. Because once you master those truths, you no longer have to worry about all the shiny objects that are coming along the way. But you mentioned when we were starting that you had to do a lot of learning for you to get to where you are, which obviously presents, a high bar of entry for so many people, because not so many people will have that time and everything else. In your journey, could you say there was a particularly challenging project or a client, business that you could not actually get maybe a favorable result on, just predicated on the difficultness of that sort of industry or things of that nature? Could there have been a person that you could not have worked with that you can highlight today, or something that took you a very, very long time to get a result on?
There are people, I would say that there aren't industries in which you can't work. There are people with whom you can't work. And those people are the ones who are deluded. So the absolute best clients are the ones who are genuine experts in their business. They have happy clients. They're clearly delivering great work, but they don't know how to explain it. They're really, really good lawyers, but they don't know how to explain the benefit. They know how to explain the law. They don't know how to explain the benefits of having a good lawyer, as an example. But some people are absolutely deluded as to what will be persuasive. So if I think about one recent project that went absolutely appallingly, it was for a recruitment agency, and the person who owned the business just simply refused to believe that clients didn't care about the things that he thought were important. And largely what he thought was important was him. And actually, that's not what the clients cared about. And he actually said to me, now, as a copywriter, once you've been in the industry for a while, you will come to the conclusion that many people are writing their marketing material to impress their mums. So they want their mum to read their website and say, didn't I do well sending Stephen to university, because he just sounds amazing. I'm so glad about all the sacrifices that I've made, and he just is the clever little boy that I thought he was. And that that's inside them, but they're probably not articulating that to themselves. This guy running a recruitment agency sent feedback on the first draft. He said, I've shown it to my mum and dad, and they don't like it. And I said to him, your clients are HR managers in large law firms. Are your mum and dad HR managers in large law firms? And he said to me, no, as if that was a very strange question that I was asking. He didn't get the point, still didn't get the point. And I said, so what does it matter whether your mum and dad like it? You're not trying to persuade your mum and dad to pay you $30,000 to recruit a business development manager. So that was the only time anybody's ever said out loud what I know is in some people's heads. So the jobs that go badly are the jobs where somebody is deluded generally about the importance of them to the process. If you see what I mean, that they think if they can just pump up their own tires hard enough, the world will beat a path to their door. And you're thinking, No, somebody wants to know that they're going to get the right candidate for the job and that you're different from the other recruiters in your process or your success rate or your guarantee or whatever it might be. They don't want to read about what a legend you are as a human being. And I mean, this guy, I think, wanted to put what degree he'd got from university. You're a recruiter. Who gives a shit if you've got a degree in history or whatever from, 20 years ago? What on earth has that got to do with it? Oh, but it was a good university. He said, so what? If you can get me the best candidate for the job and you never went to university, why should I give a shit? Alan Sugar, I don't know if you've ever watched The UK Apprentice, but, I love The UK Apprentice. Alan Sugar did not go to university. I don't think he even finished school. Do you give a shit? Or is it important that he's a billionaire? Which of the two things is important? It's just, it's that. Those are the people you can't work with. The people you can work with are the people who understand they have expertise in what they do, and you respect that, and you have expertise in presenting their expertise. That's the job that goes well. Also, it goes badly when they think you should know all about their business, when they're like, well, I sell scientific calculators, therefore you need to know all about scientific calculators, which obviously is complete nonsense. It's not my job to know about your job. It's your job to explain your job to me and my job to explain it to your audience. That's my expertise. So those are the situations. And what I wish I had known as a younger copywriter was when to say no. That's not a good fit. You and I will never be happy. So let's just not work together because I can't make you happy because nobody can do what you want.
Absolutely. That really puts it out in the open, the kind of people that you can work with and those that better stay away. And just looking at this recruiter person, if he thought he was the most important person in this whole equation, even just looking at it from an outsider's point of view, he has to deal with two separate people, the employer, the employee. There's already two people ahead of him before he is even needed. So their needs, those two people's needs need to be met before he's even considered. And speaking of mom and dad will only just say things based on what doesn't, makes you sad or unhappy with this. I really like our conversation here today, and I also like how you've brought in a whole different aspect to what a lot of people think marketing is, whereas what they're doing is just spraying and praying out there and not really talking to the people, because from what I'm understanding, people don't buy features, but they buy the future of where they're headed to. And if you can align your products and services to that future, then at least you've won half the battle. Now, speaking of the future here, Steven, you were there when websites started, and now everybody's talking about AI, and you seem to have tamed this beast again. Just maybe walk us through how you've managed to do that, whereas every other copywriter or every other content writer out there is crying foul and thinking, oh my God, this thing has come to take my job away.
Well, it's interesting you asked that because there's an article on the ABC News site either today or yesterday that it was about copywriters losing their jobs and, to AI. And it goes back exactly to the fundamentals. So I run a course called ChatGPT Mastery. I've had a lot of copywriters and content writers take it, and it blends using ChatGPT, so learning how ChatGPT works, with actual copywriting practice. So the prompts that I show people how to give ChatGPT come from great copywriting practice. So if you are using a copywriter's knowledge to drive ChatGPT, the result is phenomenal and far better. Yes, I mean, a monkey can come to ChatGPT and type, write me a blog post about, my widgets. And yes, ChatGPT will never say, well, look, I can do that, but it'll be shit. But do you still want me to do it? ChatGPT will just do it. So yeah, sure. I could endlessly write LinkedIn posts about things that I don't know anything about using ChatGPT. They won't do anything. I won't get a response. I'll have a LinkedIn post, but I won't get a response. So from a marketing point of view, it's a complete bloody waste of time. But if you know how to ask it the right questions and drive it the right way, you get outputs that are far, far beyond the beige crap that you're getting out of ChatGPT as it is now. So that is what conquering it is about. If you understand that copywriting is about understanding the audience, understanding the client, understanding the overlap between what the audience wants to know and what the client wants to say, then you structure how you think about talking to ChatGPT and what you pull out of it, you can get great results. But what my experience is that most people are doing is that they literally think they can type 2 sentences into ChatGPT about what they want, and then they're really surprised by what they get is shit. But it would be exactly the same if you brought in a junior copywriter and said, "Hey, Sally, I want writers." And Sally's not allowed to ask any. Sally's not allowed to say, "Hang on a minute, I've only worked here 10 minutes. I don't know anything about scientific calculators. Can we have a bit of a chat first?" You're like, "No, that's it. That's your brief. Go." That's why ChatGPT gives rubbish results. So when I read this article in ABC News, I'm reading it and thinking, I understand why you guys are frightened about losing your jobs, but it seems to me that you don't know the fundamentals of what you're doing. Because if you know the fundamentals of writing and persuasion, and you have ChatGPT, and you mix those two things together, you can produce better results faster and more value to your client. So actually, in my opinion, you can be charging more because you can be pulling out better results if you know how to use it.
I quite like that. It's like if you give Michael Schumacher, if he's still driving, your ordinary Toyota, he would do things to it that you wouldn't have been able to do by yourself. So it's just simply how you actually handle the machine, not necessarily what the machine can do for you, which really really puts things out there in the open there. Now, like any other show, we would like to know what's next. Now obviously you've conquered the frontier of AI. You were the one that put the dot in the first .coms. What's next for Taleist agency?
We're doing a lot of teaching now, and I'm really liking it because it's as I say, I really like an audience of doers. So I have, for most of my career, I've worked for myself. I've had my own businesses. I just like it. And so I have an affinity with people who are either out on their own solo or who have a small business and they're making shit happen. And marketing seems complicated, and it is in the interests of lots of people to make it seem complicated, helping people with the fundamentals, because the impact you can have on somebody's confidence as a business person when you position them correctly is what I love doing. And so a lot of people can't afford a marketing agency to come in and do things for them. They just don't have the budget. So what I like doing is creating the tools and the environment in which people can do it for themselves, but get a much better result because somebody's given them the structure, somebody's there to give them advice while it's happening and give them feedback. So it costs a lot less. So for me, I've got the Newsletter Magic course. I've got the ChatGPT Mastery course. I've got other courses that are coming. And with those courses, you get membership in my community, which is called The Obvious Choice. And The Obvious Choice is about taking that audience that I love and working with them as a community to turn them into the obvious choice for their ideal clients, because that's what my ideal client wants to be. They want to be the obvious choice for their ideal clients. So we have a community that's new. It only started in February. and I'm absolutely loving working with them in a sort of dispersed way. So nobody's having to pay a $350 hourly rate to work with me. They're getting to work, in the community and getting that advice and those tools.
Absolutely. Well, that's like them actually learning from the greats, the ones that you have learned from, and shortcutting that learning curve without the hefty price tag that comes along with hiring a marketing agency, because so much needs to be done and you need to create that cadence to be able to do it by yourself. And if you become part of this cohort, you can now actually start learning copywriting that makes your phone ring. Now, Stephen, thank you so much for your time on the show today. I can't express the gratitude that I have felt just being in the presence of somebody who really knows what they're doing.
Thanks, Prosper. It's very kind of you. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And there you have it, folks. Another incredible episode in the books. And a massive thank you to our guest, Stephen, for gracing us with his wisdom and wit today. And if you're hungry for more insights and inspiration, be sure to hit that subscribe button and tune in next time to another episode of the Online Prosperity Show. And I will be putting all the links to Stephen's online properties there so that you can actually get started on your journey to be able to also write copywriting that makes your phone ring. Until then, keep dreaming, keep aiming high, and remember, the journey to success is always better with your friends by your side. So that's why you need to join Stephen's community, and you can actually start creating for and relating to the audiences that you want to be selling to in the future. Bye for now.